My name is Jessica Miller, and if I could go back in time to change one single evening in my life, it would be the night I laughed in my husband's face and told him he was just being jealous. I live in Denver, Colorado, and until recently, I thought I had the perfect marriage. My husband, David Miller, was strong, reliable, and loving. He wasn't just my partner in marriage. He was my partner in life. For 6 years, we built everything together. A small house on the edge of the city, shared routines, even dreams of kids one day. But in every story about broken love, there's always something small that grows into something bigger. For us, that something was my best friend, Ethan Parker. Ethan and I had been friends since college. We bonded over music, late-night study sessions, and our shared love for adventure. He was funny, outgoing, and the kind of guy who could make everyone laugh in a room. But to me, he was always just Ethan, my best friend. When I started dating David, I introduced them early on. David was polite, but I could always sense a slight stiffness when Ethan came around. At first, I brushed it off. Men are territorial, right? They get over it. But deep down, I knew David wasn't comfortable. And yet, I never addressed it. I kept Ethan close. And one night, David finally told me exactly how he felt. It was a Friday night. David had just gotten home from work. His tie loosened, his face tired but expectant. He'd brought home takeout, my favorite Thai curry. We sat at the table, but the silence between us was heavier than usual. Finally, David put down his fork and looked straight at me. "Jess," he said, his tone steady but firm, "I need to talk to you about Ethan." My heart skipped a beat, but I forced a smile. "What about him?" David leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I don't feel comfortable with how much time you spend with him. You text him constantly. You go out with him after work. Last weekend, you spent half the day with him while I was here alone. It doesn't feel right." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Oh, come on, David. You're not actually jealous, are you? Ethan's just my best friend. He's practically like a brother to me." David's jaw tightened. "I'm not jealous, Jessica. I'm your husband. And I'm telling you, it makes me feel like I come second. If Ethan was truly just a friend, you wouldn't have to hide texts from me. You wouldn't turn your phone face down every time he messaged you." That stung, mostly because it was true. I had been turning my phone upside down, not because I was guilty, but because I didn't want David to think there was something to worry about. I should have listened. I should have seen the pain in his eyes. Instead, I laughed. "You're being ridiculous, David. You're just jealous because I have a best friend who happens to be a guy. Stop being so insecure." That's when I saw it, the flicker in his eyes, the one that told me something had snapped inside him. David stood up from the table without another word. I thought he was just upset, that he'd cool off in the living room like he sometimes did after arguments. But instead, he walked upstairs. I heard drawers opening, the closet door sliding, the sound of a suitcase being dragged across the floor. My chest tightened. I ran upstairs and found him throwing clothes into his old black duffel bag. "David, what are you doing?" I cried. He didn't stop packing. "You called me jealous, Jess. After everything I've given you, after the way I've stood by you for years, you dismiss my feelings like they're nothing. I'm not going to compete with your best friend. I deserve to be your number one." Panic surged in me. I grabbed his arm. "You are my number one. Ethan is just a friend? Then why do I feel like I've been sharing my wife with him this whole marriage?" David's voice broke, and it shattered something inside me. I begged him to stay, told him I loved him, promised him it wasn't like that. But it was too late. That night, he zipped up his bag, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. And for the first time in my marriage, I realized laughter can cost you everything. The house was unbearably quiet without him. His side of the closet was empty, his toothbrush gone, his shoes missing from the rack. I kept waiting for a call, a text, anything. But days turned into weeks, and the silence only grew louder. Ethan tried to comfort me, but even his presence felt hollow now. Every time he said, "David overreacted," a pit formed in my stomach. Because deep down, I knew David hadn't overreacted. He had been right all along. I had chosen to dismiss his feelings instead of addressing them. I had called my husband jealous when all he wanted was to feel like he mattered most to me, and I had failed him. One evening, a mutual friend of ours invited me to a small gathering. I almost didn't go, but something pushed me to. And that's where I saw him. David. But he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a woman I had never met, tall, graceful, with kind eyes and a warm smile. She rested her hand gently on his arm as they talked to a group of people. And David? He looked happy, lighter, like the burden of doubt and jealousy had been lifted off his shoulders. It was like a punch to the gut. In that moment, I realized what I had lost. Not because David had moved on, but because I saw, so clearly, what he had needed from me all along. Respect. Reassurance. Loyalty, not just in words, but in actions. And I had given him none of that. I drove home that night in tears, replaying everything in my head. The dinners I ditched to hang out with Ethan. The texts I hid. The night I laughed at the man who had given me his whole heart. I wanted to call him, to beg him to come back, to promise I would change. But what good would it do? He had already found someone who gave him what I couldn't. And maybe he deserved that. It's been over a year now. The divorce papers came in the mail, and I signed them with shaking hands. I still see David sometimes around town, but we don't talk. He deserves his peace, and I don't deserve to disturb it. But I want to share my story because I know there are others out there who might make the same mistake I did. If your partner tells you something makes them uncomfortable, listen. Don't dismiss it as jealousy. Don't laugh it off. Their feelings are valid. And if you love them, you owe it to them to take it seriously. Because trust isn't just about not cheating. It's about making your partner feel secure, valued, and chosen every single day. I failed to do that. And now I live with the regret. He told me to drop my guy best friend. I called him jealous. And that night, he packed his bags and left. I thought he was being insecure. I thought he'd come back. But he didn't. And now I know sometimes the real mistake isn't losing your partner. It's not valuing them while you had the chance.